Hello, I'm Cecilia. I've been a member of PMPs for 9 years. Without Gabriella starting this organization, I never would have found you people, other people that have the same disease and the same symptoms, the same problems post CRS and HIPEC. I thank Gabriella for bringing us all together.
Hello, my name is Brian. I was diagnosed and treated for PMP in the fall of 2011 at UPMC. I had cytoreductive surgery in HIPEC from Dr. Amer Zurakat. But I never would have connected with the right information and the right place for treatment without Gabriella and PMP Pals. I feel so incredibly lucky to have connected with her and the organization. I remember several phone calls after I returned home from Pittsburgh. She was very helpful and encouraging as I was struggling with my ileostomy. So, much gratitude for a life lived in the service of others. Thank you, Gabriella, and your memory lives on. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anne. I am a recently diagnosed appendix cancer warrior, I guess you could say. I am Lamb. Within the past year, I was diagnosed. And I think, like a lot of people, I automatically thought the worst and was saying, I'm not ready to die. So I went with my heart and I went with my local doctors and automatically listened to everything they had to say. And unfortunately, they did not know anything about appendix cancer. So I did go under a right hemicolectomy for a low-grade tumor. Had back-to-back rupture of the appendix, surgery for that, followed by a right hemicolectomy. And then I was blessed enough to find PMP Pals on Facebook. And I have to say, it's been a lifesaver. Gratefully, I'm NED, even though things could have been different for my situation. But I am so thankful that I've had the support and receive the knowledge I need to do the right things now. Through PMP Pals, I met professionals in the field, and I now go see a doctor that's specifically for appendix cancer. And I've met people who are in the same boat as I am. And I understand I'm not alone, even though this is such a rare cancer. So I can't say enough about PMP Pals. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to ever meet Gabriella. But I have to say, she left this earth in good hands. She left angels here on earth in the forms of administration that takes care of PMP Pals, the board members, the volunteers. I easily have so many new friends now, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have somebody close to talk to because you actually are not alone in this fight. So, Gabriella, I'm so grateful for the fight, and I'm grateful for what you began with PMP Pals. And I'm even more grateful for the angels you left here. And that's Chris Pygarski, it's Adele Jason, it's James Caldwell, Charmaine Skillman, it's Michael Healy, it's Jen Skilton, Connie Anderson Conroe. It's numerous people that I've never met behind the scenes. I've met and I've learned, and I feel in better hands for it. So, again, thank you, PMP Pals. I try not to miss the meetings, even though I'm doing so well. I've made so many friends, and I've gained so much support that it's comfort. It's a comfort to be in PMP Pals. So, again, thank you. And I wish I had a chance to meet Gabriella, but she certainly has left a wonderful legacy. Take care, everyone. We're all warriors in this together. And certainly, if you ever need someone to talk to, joining PMP Pals is certainly the right route to go. So blessings on your journey. Bye.
Hi, my name is Anita. My husband was diagnosed with PMP in 2001. We immediately Googled PMP and called Gabriella immediately to find out more about PMP Pals. We became very good friends over the years, and I was honored enough to be her advocate when she had surgery in Pittsburgh. Gabriella was a wealth of knowledge and an inspiration to anyone who met her. I know she is smiling down on us, knowing that PMP Pals lives on. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak about Gabriella. She's missed.
My name is Betsy, and I met Gabriella back in 2003 when my daughter was diagnosed. My daughter is now healthy 18 years later. I became close to Gabriella throughout the years and had many emails, many phone conversations with her. My favorite memory of Gabriella's a lunch that she and my husband and I had with her in Monterey. We live in Santa Cruz, California, and she was there with her little chihuahua. We just had such a great time. And the impact that Gabriella has had on my life is unbelievable. I'm an RN, and I was so worried when my daughter was first diagnosed, and the first time that I called her, she spent a good hour on the phone with me. And then after that, as I said, there were lots of emails, lots of phone conversations. I just can't tell you how much she meant to me and our family. She was so giving and just was so full of knowledge. And I am just so glad that her legacy lives on, and I still miss her.
Gabriella had an extraordinary relationship with our specialists, the surgical oncologists that worked tirelessly in battling this rare disease. There is one esteemed specialist in particular that Gabriella held in the highest regard, and that is Dr. David Bartlett. And as you will hear in our next video clip, the feeling was mutual. It is our honor and privilege to next present Dr. Bartlett's tribute to Gabriella.
Hi, it's a pleasure and really an honor to be included in this tribute for Gabriella Graham. I knew Gabriella for many years, first as a patient advocate and all that she did with PMP Pals, then as one of my patients, and I would say finally as one of my friends. And it's very fitting that you are honoring her in this way. As you all know, she was a fierce advocate, and if you think about all that she did, that's really what stands out. And when I say fierce, I mean fierce. She took personal responsibility for every patient that she met to make sure that that patient got the best care possible. And that means making sure they got to the right doctors and that those doctors did the right thing for them, and holding those doctors accountable. And she was smart enough to pull this off, and she had that fire in her that really pushed us all to a new level. And so she was so unique in so many ways. She understood the state of the art in terms of how we needed to treat this disease, but she also had a very sensitive eye towards quality of life and what we should do to maintain quality of life. And just as a little bit of a side note, I had many patients that were coming to me asking for south-facing windows so that they could see the sun for the majority of the day. And it didn't occur to me at first, but then I finally realized that that was coming from Gabriella, and that was just one of the points that she felt very important for patients who were recovering from surgery, to be in a room where they could see the sun. And so it's just an example how it wasn't just about the technology and just about state-of-the-art therapy, but also really quality of life for patients suffering with this disease. And as you know, she suffered herself from this disease, and I would say for the most part put herself behind the other patients that she was advocating for. And I would have to remind her when she would call me about a patient that she also needed to think about herself, and and that we needed to follow up with her disease. And it was almost having to remind her. It was as if she was just so caught up in helping everybody else that she wasn't always thinking about herself. But that's what she was, and that's why I call her a fierce advocate for this disease. And certainly founding the PMP Pals was a huge entity. What she did for that and what she did for patients all over the world that would tie in through that site was remarkable. And it's certainly very comforting to see what's been continued on with the PMP Pals with the current leadership, and it's exciting to see that her legacy is moving forward and expanding with what's being currently done for the PMP Pals. As many of you know, we did honor her legacy with an advocacy award at our regional cancer therapies meeting. That has now been taken over by the Society of Surgical Oncology, and they've continued to recognize her advocacy with a patient advocacy award that's given out at the Advanced Cancer Therapies meeting and will be given out again this year. So I can't say enough about Gabriella. I'm honored to be part of this tribute to her, and extremely happy that her legacy is moving on with PMP Pals as it is today.
Dr. Bartlett, thank you for your heartfelt comments and your tireless work in treating our patient community. Gabriella is smiling down on you for sure right now.
Hi, my name is Charmaine, and I'm a board member of PMP Pals. I also am a patient. I was diagnosed in 1997. That's right, 1997. That's more than 20 years ago. I want to tell you my story and why I'm a member of Pals and how Gabriella Graham influenced my life and actually was part of my good fortune in meeting her, because I believe she helped to save my life too. Gabriella is a hero for me, and I don't use that word lightly. I only have a couple of heroes that I personally have met. There might be public figures that I've never met, never will meet, but for the people that I've had direct contact with, direct personal interaction with, Gabriella is one of those I'd say is a true hero. I looked up the definition of hero to make sure I wasn't using that word incorrectly or too broadly. One definition is a person who, in the face of danger, combats adversity through feats of courage, ingenuity, or strength. In the olden days, with Greek myths, often that was done for reasons of pride or glory, or perhaps even money. In the modern day, I think we refer to heroes as people who perform selfless acts for the common good. And Gabriella was certainly that kind of hero. She helped thousands of people during her lifetime. Let me tell you how she helped me. I was diagnosed in 1997, but I was only treated in my hometown by surgeons who knew a little bit about the disease, but not as much as they should have known, let's put it that way. After many years of being treated by them, my disease still was uncontrollable, and they finally raised the white flag and said, you need to seek more specialized surgery elsewhere. You need cytoreductive surgery with HIPEC, and you should see a specialist. What I didn't know at the time was when you have a rare disease, it falls on you to find your specialist. The doctors were very, very little help in pointing me in the right direction. I went to a surgeon, I sent my records to a surgeon who was a few hundred miles away, who was one of the few people in my state who treated PMP and appendix cancer at the time. I never heard back from him. I finally called his office and said, why am I not hearing back for an appointment? The staff said he said not to give you an appointment. He considers you to be too far gone. He won't touch you. I asked to speak to the surgeon. He did call me. We had a frank conversation. And he said, look, I feel like your disease is too advanced. I feel like I'll do more harm than good. I feel like you only would live a few years and your quality of life would be very poor. Needless to say, that was not good news. It threw me into a depression. I started writing my will. My husband and I started talking about his life without Charmaine. It was a very dark time in my life. But at the same time, I had found PMP Pals. Just recently had found PMP Pals. This would have been in 2008. I had my first conversations with Gabriella around that time, and I told her about this interaction with the surgeon. She said, don't stop. Don't stop with one opinion. Find somebody else to look at your file. That's what she herself did. She pushed for appropriate treatment. She pushed for treatment that would give her more years and better quality of life. But more years and better years. And she was successful in adding lots and lots of years, way beyond what her surgeons originally thought she could accomplish. I sought out Dr. Paul Sugarbaker, and no introduction needed there, one of the world's leading specialists in this field. He agreed to take my case. My surgery was in 2009, and 12 years later, I'm healthy. I have a great quality of life. I've traveled around the world. I've hiked wherever I've wanted to, climbed mountaintops, very physically active, and feel great. So clearly the first surgeon was wrong, and Dr. Sugarbaker was able to see a way through. But, even in his skilled hands, you have to get to the surgeon first. And what Gabriella did for me was she infected me with her own courage and determination, her own perseverance. And that's why I sought surgery by Dr. Sugarbaker. And that's what saved my life. So, by the way, Dr. Sugarbaker, of course, is my second hero. And but Gabriella played such an enormous role in my life by encouraging me to seek out more treatment. And I would say she did this for thousands of people. She talked to people all over the world. And you have to go back to the late 90s and the early aughts to think about how hard that would have been without the internet. We take it for granted now. But she talked to thousands of people. She corresponded, she emailed, she spoke to them by phone. It was a lot harder then than it is now. Now with Zoom and now with texting and all kinds of social media, it's so much easier to network. But Gabriella, with the more limited tools available to her, created a true network of thousands of people worldwide. The other thing that was very impressive about Gabriella, of course, was she was the first, and indeed she was the only for many years, who garnered the respect of the physicians in the hospitals. She was treated as a professional. She was treated as a knowledgeable expert in this disease. She was invited to their conferences to speak about the patient's perspective. And she was the person who really raised the profile of patient advocacy for PMP and appendix cancer. We all owe her a debt of gratitude for that, because she put us on the map, so to speak, by the way that she handled herself and handled her own personal journey with the disease, but also by gaining so much experience by talking to patients like me, seeing what our challenges were, and then finding a way through those challenges. She could speak authoritatively to the doctors and hospitals about what patients needed and what patients wanted. So those are my big stories about Gabriella. On a personal level, about a year after I had my surgery, I went to one of her conferences in Monterey, California, and I met her personally. I think I went to 3 conferences where she was still with us. And she was such a dynamo. She was a wonderful person to meet, and she cared so much about every detail. I love people like that who think of everything. She had a seating chart for the guests at the conference. The first event on the conference agenda was our dinner on Saturday night, and she precisely laid out where she wanted everybody to sit. And she did that not because she was a control freak, but she did that because she wanted to make sure that you sat next to somebody that you had something in common with, whether it was geographic, whether it was profession, whether it was hobbies that she knew about, or your condition, where you had your surgery. She wanted to find some thread of common interest, shared experience, and put you near one of those people So I always remember the people that I shared the table with. And I was very grateful to her that she took the time to find such delightful dinner companions to share the table with among a room of strangers. So she was a detailed person. She cared about your experience. She cared about making you comfortable. She cared about enriching your experience. You were there to meet others, and she wanted to make it easy, and she wanted to make it a worthwhile experience. So there's other stories I could tell you. The picture that we have up here on this video tribute format shows a picture of her with Chulita, her little Chihuahua. Another reason I love Gabriella is I love dogs, and I love the way that she treated and cared for Chulita. And she brought a lot of joy to people by dressing Chulita up. Some people think it's silly to dress dogs up in little outfits. I thought it was charming, and I felt like Chulita did not mind at all. So we enjoyed seeing Chulita for many years in her various costumes for St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Halloween, all of the holidays. Chulita had a special outfit, and it was just another way that Gabriella brought joy to us and shared a part of her life that was important to her. She loved pets. She loved animals. I really miss Gabriella. She was a very important part of my life. And I am inspired by her every day to stay involved with PMP Pals and hope that I can be just a small part of an influence in someone's life. I can never, ever accomplish everything that Gabriella did, but I can do a small part to help somebody understand this disease and find the right treatment. And to honor her and to thank her, I will continue to be involved with PMP Pals. So I look forward to seeing everybody else's videos, and I look forward to celebrating with you and honoring Gabriella's contributions to this area of healthcare. Thank you.
Hello, PMP Pals. My name is Becky Baird, and I live in Dallas, Texas. My memories of Gabriella go way back to the early 90s. My father was diagnosed with PMP, and I'm a nurse, and so I had just really done searches about PMP. It was a long journey for him, about 15 years. Somehow I came across Gabriella Graham and PMP Pals. My father and her corresponded regularly. I think she consulted with him when she was writing up some bylaws. He was a lawyer, and he helped her to edit. What a godsend PMP Pals was. Many of the physicians that we became familiar with and surgeons was through PMP. We've gone to Memorial Sloan Kettering for my dad's definitive diagnosis. And, Gabriella really was with us every step of the way. Later, through the years, I raised my niece, and when she was a young girl, Gabriella would write letters and send pictures of the rabbits that she had, and just the garden and the flowers. Just such a beautiful soul, and she really did impact my life and my father's and our family. Because it was as you all know, a very rare cancer, and just having a support group that heavily researched the pathology, the diagnosis, the care, all of that around PMP was just a tremendous asset for us. Sadly, my dad passed in 2003. But if he were here today, I know that, he would contribute very, very positive things and memories about Gabriella.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Tarrant, and though I did not have the privilege of knowing Gabriella personally, I have benefited from her legacy. Not only have I benefited through all of the resources that PMP Pals Network offers on their website, but I found a lifeline of sorts through our weekly chat meetings with my fellow PMP Pals. Having our weekly chats led by others who have known Gabriella and continue to do her work has been so valuable. Even dealing with the NG tube and the TPN that I'm currently on, that was a lot less scary when I was armed with the knowledge and the strength that I have gathered from my PMP pals. So thank you, Gabriella, for leaving a legacy that continues to benefit PMP patients and caregivers. You have left a legacy of hope that so much of us need.
Hello, my name is Brett. I want to thank you, Gabriella, for starting the PMP Pals Network. I was diagnosed in 2017, and we were able to find some much needed information at that time on the internet through the organization you started. It was such a blessing to find it at that time. It provided my family with comfort and the answers we needed to seek the treatment. So thank you very much. I appreciate everything you did to start this organization.
Hi, today we celebrate Gabriella. Thank you for being the pioneer, founder of this wonderful group called PMP Pals. Your story has resonated with many of us, and your vision and determination to never give up hope and get patients to care has saved many lives across the globe. Sadly, I didn't get to meet you personally, but if I had, I would thank you from the bottom of my heart. When I found the group 5.5 years ago, it helped me through my husband's illness, and now I give back by being a volunteer with this great organization. Gabriella, you would be very proud of your team continuing your legacy. I do believe that you're still watching over us, and we all think of you often. Thank you so much for being that pioneer woman.
Hi, my name is Jeff. I was diagnosed with PMP in 2012. My care team at Freighter Hospital in Milwaukee pointed me in the direction of PMP Pals and Gabriella Graham at that time. Dr. Taraga recommended that I contact them because I was looking for some information, and at that time there was not much available anywhere. Gabriella gave me the peace of mind to carry on and to do what my care team had instructed me to and follow their guidance. It helped me a great deal, and to this day I still have all the cards that they sent, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Gabriella. May your name live on forever.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adele, and I am a PMP patient and the current vice president of our PMP Pals board. I feel so privileged and honored to have met Gabriella. She was such a source of hope and inspiration to me when I was diagnosed over 9.5 years ago. Her memory continues to give me strength and courage. Probably my favorite memory of Gabriella is the time I got to spend with her in Indian Wells, California at the Regional Cancer Therapies Physician Conference. She had invited me out to help her, promote PMP Pals at the conference, and it was just great to see her in action. Gabriella was such a warrior, and all of us that come afterwards benefit greatly from her efforts. It's my honor and privilege to be a part of continuing her legacy, and I hope we are making her proud. Thank you.
My name is Jim Bogdan. I first got in touch with Gabriella in 2009 when I was diagnosed with PMP. The advice she gave me to undergo surgery and HIPEC and other support she gave me helped me get through this serious health crisis. When I finally did get to meet Gabriella at one of the annual meetings, her commitment to PMP Pals and its members really came through. I can truly say that Gabriella made a difference in my life, and indeed helped save my life.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I was diagnosed with stage 4 appendix cancer in 2019. I did not discover PMP Pals until about a year and a half into my journey when I saw an invite for a Hope Zoom call. I had never done Zoom calls before. I was nervous and shy, but I tried it anyway, and I liked it, and I fell in love with the family. I have been provided with so much support and have learned so much through the Zoom calls, and I see the relief on many new faces when they join, and they are given the support that they very much need as well as the education that they need. And these Zoom calls have helped me because I used to be really camera shy and now I'm not. And it has opened doors for me. And now I create YouTube videos for patients expressing things that are very difficult to talk about and teaching loved ones how to best help patients. So that's my way of giving back. And I never got to meet Gabriella, but she's there at every Hope Zoom call. We mention her every call. And I can see how loved she was and how much love she gave. And she lives on due to this organization. So thank you, Gabriella, for your gifts of love and support to us all. They are still very much giving to us. And what you have contributed to the world is very special and inspiring. Thank you.
You know, we are just repeating, we're paying forward what we learned from Gabriella and what we watched her do for hundreds of people, truly. I had the pleasure, I lived in San Jose, California. She was down an hour south in Salinas, California, very small farming town. And so I would visit her quarterly, and my daughters were raised with her. And she was not just responsible for saving my life, educating me and getting me to care, but she was a dear friend, a confidant. And I was privileged to know her. I was lucky to be able to spend a week with her at Shadyside at UPMC when she had surgery with Dr. Bartlett.
Yes.
And I was with her at Stanford when she passed. And so just a miraculous woman, this diminutive person who was never free of disease. And yet her life's mission was to support us and be there for us. With no compensation or anything in return other than the knowledge that she was helping us. Truly an amazing individual.
She was what I call a surgical soldier. You know,
she was
really remarkable and resilient person. Okay.
You sent Gabriella a letter of gratitude and thanks at one point in time. Thanking her for the PALS mentor program. And as you see this letter here, you wrote that to her, expressing your thanks and how important that mentor program was, right, for such a frightening surgery. Talk more about that, right? This was back in 2001.
Well, this letter from me is 2001, so it was 13 years prior to her passing. Well, yeah, the letter was written with a lot of gratitude for this mentorship, which she set up so that the people didn't go through this treatment, this extended treatment on their own, wondering, what's going to happen, tomorrow. They pretty much had a good idea as they went into the hospital, from the CT scan to the bowel prep to the epidural anesthesia to 10 hours of surgery and then 2 to 3 weeks in the hospital. I think it was a huge help for them to be educated as to what was going to happen, and they just they didn't wonder every day what was going on, and then they had this feeling of accomplishment as they saw themselves basically staying on the timeline for recovery. It was really very valuable for patients to stay on that timeline, and it gave both the patient and their family a lot of confidence, and much less anxiety to know that this was going to be over, and they were moving through the process in an organized manner.
Hi, this is Arthur Reddick. I am the author of the Ask Arthur website on PMP Pals. I am recording this to praise the woman who helped save my life and gave my life a new purpose. That is Gabriella Graham. She was a marvelous woman who gave of herself freely and without asking for anything in compensation other than the smiles and good wishes she would extend to us. When, as most of us, I had my surgery far from home, 1,500 miles. And when I got home after my first HIPEC, I was devastated, both emotionally and physically. I could not eat, as most of us can't after HIPEC, and I felt that my life was over. My wife and daughter knew of the PMP Pals site, and they said, maybe we should call Gigi. And I said to them, let's do it, because no one else seems to be knowing what to do, and I feel helpless. And we called Gigi, they called Gigi, and immediately she knew what to do. She knew exactly what to do. And that's the way I patterned my life to recover from HIPEC. I've had 2 HIPECs, the first one in 2013, the second one in 2014. I had 6 months of chemotherapy preceding my first HIPEC, and I also had, my diagnosis was made in January of 2013. When I was eventually told of my diagnosis and what it was, with certainty, I said to myself, I never heard of this disease. I never heard of this disease. I had been a board-certified general surgeon and a board-certified pediatric surgeon, and I took recertification exams 3 times in each at that point in my career. So I have had 8 exams in surgery, and not one had a question on PMP or HIPEC. I thought back to my surgical career, and there was one person who had, in retrospect, something that looked like PMP, and I had to refer her to someone else or some other institution. I never heard back, and so I assumed that she had PMP, but I did not know for sure. This was a physician who didn't know anything about it, and I hated to think what people who were not trained in medicine understood. And Gigi became an inspiration to me. After my surgery was over, my first HIPEC was done, I resumed my life, I went back to work. I became a different person. I was much kinder and nicer to the patients, my little patients. I was a pediatric surgeon, and I was certainly much more understanding of the grief and the dread of their parents. I think I was compassionate before my surgery, but certainly afterwards, I increased my approach to humans. It was a very heartwarming experience to see people so grateful for just an act of kindness and an act of understanding of what they were going through. They didn't want to hear the technical aspects of surgery. They needed to know the practical. And that's what Gigi was so good at, and that's what doctors fail us. After my change of heart to my practice, or my change of approach to my practice, I also decided that what Gigi had done for me, which was give me life again, needed to be somehow recognized, but not in a flagrant and overt way, but quietly. And so I was approached to write an article about PMP, and I was also asked if I would do a answer segment on PMP, and I was elated to do so. This was my way of paying back to Gigi for all that she had done for me and for countless others. I once asked Gigi, why every 3 to 6 months do we have so many people going on trips abroad, overseas, African cruises? And she said, Arthur, you'll understand. And I understood now, in retrospect, what she meant. And she told me eventually that if you get a good diagnosis and a clear slate at the end of 3 or 6 months, you're elated. And that's very true. And so my elation was focused on helping others who were approaching this dreadful disease. I get inquiries from across the world: India, Korea, China, England, the Scandinavian countries, and of course throughout the United States, from people who have a diagnosis of HIPEC or who have had HIPEC and are not doing well and can't get in touch with their own doctors or trying to take care of it locally, and no one seems to know. This has been the most rewarding experience in my professional career, and I cannot thank Gigi enough for leading me in the right direction. She was a wonderful woman. She suffered so in the latter part of her life, but I never heard her complain. I never heard her say, oh, woe is me. She was always upbeat and always kind and compassionate. And that's what I remember of Gigi, and that's how she affected my life.
Hi, I'm Chris Pikarski, the president of PMP Pals. When I think of Gabriella Graham, I think of many memories. I think of my journey when I was diagnosed in the Christmas of 2004 and going to notable hospitals in the Bay Area of California and receiving a grim prognosis. But my father found PMP Pals on the internet and introduced me to Gabriella. And she explained there was reason to be hopeful and that I needed to travel the country to find care. She directed me to MD Anderson and NIH and Paul Sugarbaker at the Washington Hospital Center. But I ultimately chose care with Dr. Armando Sardi at St. Agnes at the time in Baltimore, as that's where I grew up and I had a good support network. Gabriella helped me navigate intravenous chemotherapy as well as HIPEC preparation and recovery. She coached me through it. She provided information and emotional support. She graciously gave me a mentor. I remember receiving my bare bottom bear at the hospital while I was in her treatment. I remember receiving a box of get well cards from patients and caregivers around the world and giving me a wave of love I'll never, ever forget. It was truly inspirational. And thanks to Gabriella, I navigated that treatment quite well. I'm glad that I developed a friendship with Gabriella. She lived just an hour south in Salinas, California, a small farming town east of Monterey. And we had lots of great adventures, my family and her, going to San Juan Bautista and having lunch there, visiting the local farm, the Bunny Farm in Salinas, where there was pumpkins and hay rides with my young daughters. And we had very good times. She was in many ways a grandmother to my daughters, and I was very grateful for that friendship. As I got to know her better, I got to really understand the challenges that she lived with. Gabriella, towards the end, was in constant pain. She lived in a very humble condominium in Salinas, and yet she did such amazing work from there, posting articles constantly on the website, reaching out to each and every one of us and ensuring our success. Gabriella literally saved hundreds of lives. And in fact, the entire board of PMP Pals is here because of her. Gabriella demonstrated with her life that you can do great things even if you have PMP. When I think of PMP Pals today, I'm proud that the organization has continued those legacy programs and expanded them even more. During the pandemic, we started Zoom calls, and we've had over 2,000 registrations for those programs. We've recorded and published over a dozen physician presentations that are incredibly informative and help us understand that our surgical oncologists and our specialists are amazing people too. All of this giving hope to people and letting us know that despite having a rare cancer, we're not alone. And so we're proud of that work. We're glad to be paying that forward. And we're grateful that Gabriella taught us these lessons. We thank you for being part of PMP Pals, and we're excited to continue the legacy.